Greetings, my name is Sumitiper and welcome to ACERVO Season 4 Episode 5. There has never been any snow. Interrupted from my work, I received a call from the principal of the school my son studies in. She said that he had been brewing trouble and asked to talk about it with me. I sighed and agreed, because it must have been something important. I had decided to have this appointment the next Monday morning because I might have been able to get some work done after the fact. When the day finally arrived, I was greeted in by the secretary and was soon face to face with the principal. She had a stern, annoyed look on her face, with a slight sprinkle of disappointment. "Madam Unia," she greeted me. "Madam Whitten," I replied. "I have heard from other parents complaints about their children speaking about conspiracies." Oh, not this. I knew exactly what she was talking about. "And the children have said that the person who spread those conspiracies was your son," she continued firmly. "Kyle has been talking about snow, hasn't he?" I asked. "I'm afraid so. Usually school staff would be the ones to deal with this, but Kyle has shown increasing distrust of his teachers. Because of that, it is my recommendation that the person most qualified to deal with this would be you," she concluded. "I understand. Thank you for informing me, Madam Whitten. I will make sure that this behavior will be corrected." I was furious. Not only was my son misbehaving, he was embarrassing me. He made me look like a bad mother, and it also meant that the whole talk I had with him was completely ineffective. Kyle joined me while I was preparing dinner, his head looking down, avoiding my disapproving look. "Kyle, look at your mother." He raised his head, showing a sad face, clearly trying to get me to be soft with him. "Snow, Kyle. I've already said that there is no such thing. There has never been such a thing," I said firmly, while my son remained silent. Kyle opened his mouth to justify his absurd belief, but I made sure to interrupt before he could even start his justification. "I am not done talking. You know exactly what has to happen because we already did this. Repeat after me. There is nothing called snow, and there never was. Understand?" I said in disappointment. "No," he said defiantly. "There was a thing called snow." Clearly, he could not understand the lies that had been fed to him. "No, there wasn't. You'd think that someone would seriously not write about a phenomena of white powder falling from the sky like rain?" I shouted at him, and he still stood firm. "There was. I—" Once again, I needed to interrupt him. "There was not. And where did you even get this from? From an idiot spreading lies on a web forum? There are crazy people everywhere, Kyle. You can't believe that what they say is true." Those people in forums disgusted me. The inaction to get them shut down also drove me furious. "I didn't learn it in forums," he protested. "Where else from, Kyle? The strategy I was using was not working. It hadn't worked before and most likely wouldn't work again. I needed a new strategy." "If you see written proof, will you believe me?" He talked nonsense, but I decided to go along with it. "Oh, sweetie, you know that I love you and trust you. I just don't see where you could get this from." Getting his guard down was a necessity. Great-grandma wrote a diary, and I found it. I stood quietly as my son continued his explanation. In there she described a visit to a mountain, and she said that it was the first time she saw snow in her life. It was crunchy, white and cold. It made everything white and pretty. Kyle spoke with immense passion. "Will you let me see that, sweetie?" I asked with the softest tone I could muster. "If I can get it back later," he said, and then promptly went to his room and returned with a small, black, soft-cover diary. It was old and fragile. "Can you show me where it is, sweetie?" I asked. He quickly went down the pages and located the exact one with the slide. I grabbed the book and pretended to read it. After finishing my pretend reading, I curled it up into a cylinder and put it into the sink's garbage disposal unit. "Mom, stop! What? Why? Why are you doing this? Stop! Mom, no!" My son shouted and cried. "No, please." Soon enough, the job was done. I picked up my stern mom voice. "Where did you see it written, Kyle? I see no written evidence of snow ever being a thing. Also, I already told you to not go on these forums." Remaining cold so that he would respect his mother, I decided to play soft once again. "Honey, I love you, and that's why I don't want you believing in baseless superstitions." Softening up was definitely needed. My son stood in shock, processing what just happened. "You bitch." He really just said that. I was taken completely off guard. I would have never expected such profanity from my son. "How dare you call your mother that? I've given you heaven and earth. I've moved mountains because of you, and you have the audacity of calling me such a thing." I was fuming. Kyle wouldn't even be able to grasp my anger. "You want someone? I'll gladly give you an example. Your great-grandmother was a bitch, a stupid, lying idiot who was proud of the ignorance of her mind. I knew none of those things, but making a point now is more important than being correct." Kyle was crying once again. "You want that little book back? Here, have it." Forcefully removing the garbage disposal unit, I proceeded to dump the contents on Kyle. "You're filthy. Go take a bath." I commanded him, and he went away, still with tears in his eyes. Later, before bedtime, I went to Kyle's room and entered. He was angry that I didn't knock, but it didn't matter. This wasn't his house. He just lived in here. I owned it. "Are we gonna let bygones be bygones?" And from him, no answer. "Look, I am willing to not ground you if you agree to these conditions. 1. I forget that you called me that. 2. You don't talk about this nonsense anymore. Is that okay for you?" As I stood awaiting an answer, I was once again given none. "Kyle, please cooperate with your mother." Then he just said, "Fine." I was glad. My son would stop acting like I was a foreigner. That's my boy. Now remember, Mommy loves you and wishes you well. That's why I do what I need to do. To protect you, my sweetie. I hope you enjoyed this video. This has been Sumitiper, and thank you so much for watching.